where we are actually a course for the kids for which they get also a grade and a credit. We work only with middle and high school students, we've never worked with elementary school students. And so our focus has been, and my passion has been for the last 23 years, I've been doing this since I started it, is a lot around social emotional learning. And so how we have done this is that we believe very much in the power of youth voice and also in the influence of peers on other peers. And so we're pulling on that. So inside our schools, we have peers working with younger students inside the same building, and those students then are role models to other students. And these many times come from same neighborhoods. I call it, they have the same cultural zip code, same neighborhoods, experience very similar traumas, very similar barriers, and despite all that are demonstrating that they are successful in school and ask them to be leaders and role models. That's really the work that the Yes Institute does on a daily basis. At this moment, as I said, about in 9 schools, about 800 kids. So we have had since 2000, can you go to the next slide, please? So we have been working, since I started, we worked with 10.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm being recorded.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, hi everybody. So I worked with, we worked with 10,000 kids since I started in 2001. So, our high school students, they do very well. So it's really around the end of the day, we want students to be caring and productive members of their communities, which all nonprofits want who do the work of youth development, right? So the next slide, please. So what we also have done is that, actually, can you go to the slide after that? Gives you a little bit of background. So we have always people on staff who are very good at writing curriculum. And so one of the parts that we have done is that we created curriculum around social emotional learning. We have a social emotional learning curriculum about 880 pages. And so we have had, since 2005, we've had a very strong relationship with the Office for Children's Affairs in Denver. And so they've been working with us. And so in 2000, the Office for Children's Affairs in Denver, they provide money to after-school programs in Denver. That's something we in Denver voted on as part of the sales tax, goes to after-school program. After cannabis became legal in Colorado, those after-school programs, these are the big guys like Girls Inc., Boys and Girls Clubs, all these different people. They said, well, we have a real problem. We have kids who are middle school age who are just thinking that cannabis is legal, and they're just using cannabis all the time. And they are not educated. They have no idea how to deal with that. Can you write a curriculum? So we then wrote a curriculum together with experts within Denver Public Schools, experts within that field, and wrote a curriculum for 10 hours. That's called under the Healthy Lifestyles umbrella. So it's a cannabis curriculum. It's for early middle school. And what we did there is that we are, and it's a very interactive, engaging curriculum for engaging middle school kids after school, because they don't want to sit down and look at another screen. So it's really to have them move around. So that's all the grantees in Denver from the Office for Children's Affairs, they hand out about $2-3 million. All these grantees were mandated to use that curriculum. Also, we went to Denver Public Schools, and all the health educators within Denver Public School, middle schools, were using that curriculum as well. And we showed some very strong data compared to other curricula based upon national surveys of how the curriculum that we were doing was competing and even outperforming some other curricula like life skills and so forth, which have been around for many, many years. So now then the pandemic happens, of course, everything stops. We created that curriculum together with experts in virtual learning. We created an online curriculum for that, so we could continue to provide that curriculum. Then the city of Denver came back to us and said, can you also create curriculum for vaping and opioids? So we went back to the drawing board. We worked together again with these experts and created a curriculum for vaping and opioids that can be used on a virtual level and also in person. And so we wanted to do this. What Denver wanted to see is that we wanted to see it under a spectrum, that cannabis is focusing more on early middle school, vaping middle school, 7, 8 grade, early high school. In opioid addiction, we're not just talking about opioids, but also about addiction, is more for high schools. And so the curriculum, these different curricula, of course, are adjusted to the development of those students. So the high school one, the opioid curriculum, is very much opioid addiction curriculum, is very interactive, working with peers, youth voice, and so forth. when you implement that curriculum. So that's kind of the timeline of how we work. So this curriculum, so I understand this is a lot around opioids here and opioid addiction. The curriculum around the opioid, vaping and opioid has been tested with about 200 kids, and we have been doing this again with the after-school partners in the city of Denver, where we develop the curriculum, we go to the students, we test it, we get the feedback from the students, and then make adjustments to it. While we also bring in research, of course, and expertise in that, to also have all the research in place as well. Yeah. And have a third party, Dr. Stephanie Hamilton, I don't know if anybody knows her, from Insight Analytics. She also did the data on that, and so that we could also learn from the data with regards to that as well. Yeah. So the next slide. I'll talk a little bit about what Yes does. I need my glasses. So briefly, I am not the expert on the curriculum as such, but I can tell you kind of what our approach is. And since I have very little time with regards to this with you, and so if you were to be interested, and some of you want to really do a deep dive in the data and the curriculum, of course, we want to provide that to you. I just wanted to give you a quick overview here. So the Yes Institute is very much around youth voice, having students work together, create experiential experiences, discussions, and learning, and really bring it back to their own life. So it's around, and the focus is always so that students make responsible decision making. A lot of focus of social emotional learning is around self-regulation, healthy relationships, empathy. So we want to look at harm reduction, but also that we take the stigma away of addiction and opioids, that there's also focusing on empathy for the people that are using that. And so of course, also bringing in social emotional skills such as critical thinking and so forth. Yeah. Next slide. Okay. So the curriculum itself is a 5. Can you go to the next one also? So it's project-based. So the curriculum that we have developed, and that is something that can be adapted. The curriculum that we have developed is a 5-hour curriculum. It can be provided virtual or in person. It's more focused on the older students, but it can be adapted to the younger students. And so we have about an 80-page facilitator guide with this as well. So there is a facilitator guide, so it's all set up to create the least amount of friction for people who want to facilitate that they don't have to to study for a long time and how to present this. So we're looking at facilitators actually here who are people, they don't have to be experts in substance abuse or addiction. These can be people who are very good in youth development and working with youth and bringing out their voices and facilitating this critical thinking discussion with the students around scenarios. And through that, they will learn that. Yeah. So we have so 5 hours, and each would be like a period in school. Yeah. That is what's the way that it has been set up. The cannabis curriculum is actually a 10-hour curriculum, and the vaping curriculum is a 5-hour curriculum that we have developed. Will you go to the next slide, please? So here are some of the courses of the course topics that we are focusing on, and we have that in all the curricula. In all the curricula, we're focusing a lot on myths and facts. We bring in a lot of brain development also for people that we're working with, and students really like that. Actually, just this afternoon, at noon, we have in the cannabis curriculum, we actually brought that pre-pandemic to Alaska. And Alaska was looking for, in their after-school programs, to have curriculum around marijuana and cannabis in their community. So we trained somebody, flew out to Alaska and trained 40 after-school programs in Alaska, who then went off, all the way through Alaska and do this curriculum. They have continued to use that marijuana curriculum in all these years. And so actually this afternoon, I just got an email. They did like extensive data on impact of these agencies of data. They said about 1,500 kids went through it, but actually only 200 of the agencies had to get 200 kids only did the survey. But what we learned from the survey is that how much the kids actually like about information around myths and facts, and also about the information on the impact that it has on the body and brain with regard to. So we integrate that in all the different curricula that we're working with. So here for the high schools, of course, we are looking around, again, big part of from social emotional learning is self-awareness. We talk about risk protective factors. We talk about bystanders, upstanders, some of the misperceptions that people have around people who get addicted to opioids, like they have weak willpower or whatever it is. And so to have discussions around that as well, but that really is. We learned from the data that we learned from Dr. Hamilton is that in this pilot programs for 90 of 200 kids, 90% of them recommended the curriculum. The increase pre and post was mainly around kids learned about the types of opioids, the effects, like for instance, the effect of convulsions you can have, and also learning a lot around the protective factors that can be in place, that are in place already for them, and that they actually can tap into. Here at the bottom, I'm mentioning that an additional additional part that we do with this is that if somebody wants to do this curriculum, there is a community project as well, where students can do like a capstone, and they can have they can do like a film project where we call A Day in Your Life, where they really look at all the different elements in their world, from their family, personally, their family, their neighborhood, their school, and so forth. What is the relationship that people have with addiction and opioids? Yeah. And they could then create that as a PSA if they want to, as a community project. Yeah. So again, this is some of the parts that we that I mentioned with regarding to the format of how it is being taught. Yes Institute, actually, we have, let's say schools want to use this. So schools many times have their own learning management system of which these curricula can live. And so we have experts who can help them to set up on their learning management systems. Like for instance, our curriculum in Denver Public Schools, they use Schoology. And so we have integrated it completely into Schoology. We have our own learning management system. So let's say there are after school programs who want to do this. I actually just had a conversation with, I don't know if any of you know Heather Vesgaard. Heather Vesgaard, who's the executive director of Partners, who's been around in the mentoring world almost as long as I am. I've been around since 2001. And so she is almost the same time. She said she'd be very interested, actually, since health education in high school is taken away and there's no substance abuse education anymore, that an agency such as hers could use curriculum like that, and they then could complement the lack of health education for kids. How would they do that? She doesn't have a learning management system, so she would use our learning management system, and then from there they can use it. So we already have created a platform for that. Yeah. So what we're trying to do with the curriculum is that, I'm not trying to be respectful of your time. What we do with the curriculum is that we really start from very broad and really bring it to very personal. From societal views, students learn about war on drugs, the policies, the criminalization of it versus harm reduction. We go into the science of addiction, the brain, the reward, who could be vulnerable because of which factors. Then go into how do you create supportive communities, for instance. Look at media influence, look at how does Narcan work and how is that as a support level. Protective factors, again, around belonging. Then within a school, looking at risk and protective factors, empathy, different strategies to be resilient. And then at the bottom, really to look at mental health, social emotional learning, and then strategies to take positive choices with regards to addictions and to opioids. We believe that as the Yes Institute, one second, can you go to the next one too? These are some of the standards that all the curriculum is aligned to these best practices. As I said, it's a mixture of research and best practice combined with really bringing in youth voice and to make it relevant and relatable to students. And then the next one, I just want to be of your time. So we're a nonprofit. And so how Yes Institute wants to do is that we want to reach out to the different opioid councils like yourself. We actually have been successful in Adams County. They put out a proposal and we submitted to the proposal because they were looking for a curriculum for educating parents and guardians with regards to this. And so they awarded us a grant that we're going to be working with next upcoming school year to provide curriculum that we then can, with community input and so forth, the end result is that we hand it over to that community. And it's the community and the connections within that community that can do that. Let's say you would have that here. That's where we give curriculum to people like Heather at Partners, and then she has connections. So Yes Institute has no intent coming into your community, of which we are completely novices and don't know anybody, to come and work with the community and implementing it. We want to create something with working together with the stakeholders of that community who knows your community, adapt the curriculum to what works for you, the best way where your needs are, and then hand it over to you, where then your stakeholders, could be schools, could be nonprofits, can then implement that into the different layers of people that they want to work with. That's kind of and we are, the dollars we would earn from this, they actually flow back into the community as a nonprofit. As I said, we are working with 800 kids every day. That helps to fund us as a nonprofit, but also to continue to work with very high-risk kids in Metro Denver, and also to use as continuously writing curriculum and content to serve other communities. So that's kind of the idea what we have about it. So we're not, supporting Yes Institute is not giving money to a Chicago corporation that is helping stakeholders to make more money. This is really, these monies really flow back to the community. We want to, and we have the expertise to then adapt to your curriculum. So to your community. Anyway, so I kind of rushed through that in 15 minutes. So I want to, again, be respectful of it. So, if you have any questions, or I don't know if I can answer every question, but I will make sure that you do have, that I get the answer to you.
Jasper.
A couple of questions I have. I think you mentioned that you haven't really worked with anyone up here, so I think I know the answer to it, but have you reached out to our school districts in Larimer County yet to see about their interest in partnering?
No. I did, no, we have not, no.
And then I was wondering, we funded a program, I think it's called the Blues Program. Dr. Nathaniel Reed out of CSU built a project program and worked with all 3 school districts, have identified specific areas of need in all 3 of our school districts, and are continuing that work. Could be a great connection to see if there, something like this would help supplement what they're already doing.
What's the name of it? What is the name?
He's right there.
Is he there? Yay, there he is.
Oh.
Hi, yeah, I'm Nathaniel Riggs. I'm the executive director of the CSU Prevention Research Center. And sorry, I'm not there in person. I experienced some travel issues on the way back from the East Coast, but yeah, I'd be happy to connect with our presenter here. And just for his information, we've been working with the 3 school districts over the past about 15 months on kind of creating the infrastructure for them to be able to make decisions on programs that fit their own community context and culture, and using data to select from evidence-based programs. And so I'd be happy to have a conversation if that would be useful for the council.
I think great. Thank you, Beth.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much. Can I get that information for you with the connection? Okay, that would be wonderful. Thank you. Yes. So then the infrastructure is already in place. What we have learned we contacted all 19 councils. Some councils we never heard of, but actually 50 we actually heard of. Some councils have it really well together. They know exactly what they want to do. They know how they spend their money. Some councils like Adams County have, they did a proposal. Some counties invest in buildings. Durango, they want a treatment center and they put all their money in a big building, and so, and the reason why we actually reaching out to the council is that through a connection somehow, I was able to meet actually with Attorney General Weiser, and he was the one who said, well, what you need to do is, this is wonderful. We don't underwrite any curriculum here, of course, which I fully understand, but just see if you can get the attention of the different councils. And each council has their own priorities, what they want to dedicate their money to, and I know you have many years of how you can do that. And so that's really the reason why I'm here. So you know who we are, that we exist, and hopefully that we can find a way maybe to collaborate a partner in the near or distant future.
Oh, we're glad you came. Yeah, we will get you, Dr. Riggs's information.
Dr. Rick, he's called?
Yep, Nathan Riggs, yep. Get you guys connected.
Okay, wonderful. Any other, then I will. Good, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes,
Well, I was just gonna say, I used to work for a mentoring program here in Larimer County, and I think you're just on the right track with Heather for sure. And even Boys and Girls Club here would be really great.
That's a good point.
yeah, because we were working, a lot of these pilots we did in Denver was also through Boys and Girls Clubs.
Yeah, we have really strong ones here in Larimer County.
Wonderful.
I would add the Teen Activity Center, Lordship would be.
Yeah.
The Family Center for Family Outreach, actually, and they're, and we don't put money into, kind of put money into helping that open, but
Yeah.
also they just got an impact grant, they're doing a parent fair, resource fair for, with some of the impact grant money, so, we had that event yesterday, so, yeah.
We'll get you that information.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, that was-
Thank you for coordinating that. I really appreciate it.
We'll get you that information. Thank you.
You have a wonderful afternoon.
Yeah, you too. Wonderful work. Okay, so we can turn the next one over, our last item on the agenda, data subcommittee discussion. I understand Commissioner and Dr. Jared Olson are going to provide updates. And he's on Zoom.
Okay,
Jared.
guys like first. Hello, Dr. Olson. So thank you. I'll start and then maybe Dr. Olson can follow up. So we met last week as a data subcommittee and with Beth and myself and Trustee Mason and Dr. Gerald Wilson and Ward was there. Who else was there? Liz was there.
I was there, yeah.
Oh, you were there, Jessica was there. So we had a really great conversation and, we had moved last meeting to kind of combine efforts between the conversation with the Butler group and the contract with that and having, it doesn't make sense to have, this data center is really important and we want to keep the RAC numbers we're voting on this. We want to make sure we're getting the data that we'd like to see to evaluate these going forward, but it also doesn't make sense to have multiple meetings where the same group of people like Dr. Olson that are meeting in lots of different groups and so having the same conversation. So we proposed pulling this all together into this group that Dr. Olson and others have started, EPI group, and I don't know what the acronym. Forgive me all, I am so brain fried right now. I'm not kidding when I say I've had 5,000 pages to read this week, but I'm not kidding. So and so I think there's a lot of synergy, overlap, duplication, which is great, but it's all the same information and we all want to understand and use that same data. So I think for respecting people's time and staff capacity and the travel time and preparing meetings, I think we can do a lot more by collaborating and pulling these groups together and having this meeting. And then I think it's gonna be encouraging or enhancing the work because it will bring all those conversations in the same room at the same time with all the same people. So our recommendation was to maybe merge this data subcommittee of the ROAC and we'll have members and everyone's welcome to come from the ROAC. It's not like it's an exclusive membership or something. Everyone's welcome to come and merge it in and have this main group that has all access to all the data and have the conversations. And thinking about Dr. Jared Olson will probably be one less time, he'll have to repeat himself in some of these meetings because these are so many meetings. So we think we have a recommendation that we'd like to merge this group and have the data subcommittee a part of this group. And hopefully the timing and the meetings will work out. But I think it will lead to more transformational and powerful conversations and better use of the data and really want to respect that we're all having lots of meetings. If we can combine them and not having just have meetings, I think this will be a good transition. But not saying that we're not, the ROAC and the people will still have a chance to say, hey, we really need to have this to evaluate how we're going forward. But I think there's a lot happening, and being on the state's data subcommittee, and then some of those people are at the national level, just kind of filtering this all in will be important. So anything I missed, Trustee Mason, or sorry, Mayor Pro Tem, congratulations, Mayor Pro Tem Mason, or Beth, anything I missed from that conversation?
No, I don't think so, Commissioner. I think you put it pretty succinctly there, so.
The only other thing I would say is, we did talk about also, I think we all rose our hand to be on the subcommittee, before we had our new, member, Councilmember Black from Levelland, and if anyone else, so just wanting to re-offer, if anyone else wants to like be invited to these meetings, that Jared will send, as he's been helping us all know when those meetings are gonna be.
And so there, and I think anyone in this should be able to come and have this conversation, because it's helps us get, yeah, so just having that conversation. So so Dr. Olson, would you like to add anything or explain this a little bit further, and maybe explain what group we're merging with? And I forgot, I don't remember what EPI is, so forgive me. So
Absolutely. No, happy to add a little bit here. As the commissioner mentioned, there is a contract within these 2024 contracts, or excuse me, a subcontract with the Butler Institute from DU to do some of this data work and evaluation work, and more, maybe more specifically, to facilitate that work. So that's what the Butler Institute's role will be, is kind of convening and helping to facilitate these meetings. We've pulled in some additional perspectives and data experts, and we'll continue to round out that group. We do see our charge as two particular tasks, the first of which is to create a process and framework for grantee metrics and evaluation. And I can walk you through those steps that we've at least laid out preliminarily, or at least kind of our first draft of that. We want to be aware of what's already in the contracts that have existed previously, that have been signed previously in 23 and 24. Be able to have some sort of an intake survey so that grantees can let us know what outcomes they're seeking in their programs, what kind of evaluation and metrics they already look at, if any, so that we can kind of shape that. We think we can group our grantees together by the type of work that they're doing, and be able to support them as a group or as a collective for that particular work. And then be able to provide some ongoing troubleshooting, design data collection plans, or work within their existing operational processes to identify ways that they could collect data along the way. And then the end goal here is to be able to create some templates or some examples that future grant applicants could use in order to flesh out their evaluation plans, both in the application and then in the final approved form for any contracts that are distributed in the future. And certainly as a committee, as the governing body, you could extend any of that work however you see fit for your contract awarding. Then the second approach for the group will be to continue to hone and develop those population level approaches. So for monitoring the opioid burden in our county and any associated risk factors. So we already have a number of visualizations and data sources pulled together. We have metrics, but we can continue to review those and hone those and determine kind of what rises to the top. We have some other data sources that we're pursuing, so we'll continue that conversation about potentially lead in 911, long view data, peer support resources, things like that. Always looking for missing indicators and other possible data sources, and then figuring out how to best share and display both with the public and with the committee. Our next meeting is May 13th. I do want to maybe request some clarity on the open records and whether this constitutes a public meeting, just depending on the business that's discussed and the number of board members that sit on this committee at any one time. So that might be one consideration for individuals who may want that information, and certainly board members can sit on the committee and bring that information back to the whole committee, but wanted to throw that out there.
David, thank you.
Thanks, David.
We see you.
I never called up and I said,
Popped right up.
thank you, David.
I heard open meetings and I just, so. I'd have to get some more information specifically on what policy or advisory decisions are being made, but typically it would, my default is to say it would be an open meeting. But if we want to connect after this meeting, I can get some more information and sort of narrow it down and let you know for sure.
That would be helpful. Thank you. And then alternatively, you know, oftentimes it is only 2 members or 1 member who may show up. So maybe the board might determine if we can figure out if it is a public meeting, if we have 3 or more board members there, then maybe we can determine whether the board wants to kind of allocate those resources to that or whether they want to limit the representation to a couple members.
Sounds good.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
So, I hear your concerns, Dr. Olson. Any meeting and any meeting minutes or anything are like that could be court requestable, correct, David, unless it's attorney-client privilege. And so, but if it is a data subcommittee, the only requirement would be to publicly notice it if it had to be a public meeting, and we have public meeting noticed a lot of folks don't show up. So I'm just curious about what it might be your concern about folks. I mean, it's as someone who has all my emails public and people can show up at any time, including know where I live. I'm just wondering what your concern is.
Having had multiple Coras on my emails as well, I don't have any concerns about the public being present at the meeting. It's just whether or not we need to post the meeting notice 48 hours ahead of time, agendas, minutes, post anything, just any part of that burden with having Liv also present for any of that work as well. So that's the only difference.
That's just with Liv being a resource of the health department's having another meeting where she's using that time is that we just don't have that ability. So, but I see Laura Walker.
May I?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Since I was present at the meeting too, and have been giving this a lot of thought. The way that I have been looking at this is that this epidemiology group, which is what EPI is short for. It's not an acronym for you, just so you know.
I was just like, I don't remember the acronym.
I know, and there are a lot of acronyms in this world, that's for sure. But my understanding was this is a group that already exists. And so in my view, what this transition would look like would be that this council would suspend their own subcommittee and invite anyone who's interested in this topic, board members or members of the public or anyone else are welcome to come and attend these meetings of a group that already exists, but it is not something I would consider then a public meeting in the same way that these are, which would then eliminate the need for that, those hours of staff support just to have a meeting hosted. But
And we could also, and we could also just make a public note that we meet on the 3rd Monday of every month, with the exception of May, and leave it at that as well. So there's at least awareness, even if it is not technically a public meeting.
Does that cover that, David?
Well, it depends on what the role of people from this council would be at the subcommittee. So it's more triggered by how many representatives from a board that is obligated to participate in open meetings shows up at one of these meetings. So, I mean, my example is the easiest is to use the board of county commissioners. If 2 of you show up to some other meeting and you're going to make some sort of decision that could bind the board of county commissioners, then we have to make that an open meeting regardless of the intent. So I need to get a better idea of how many people from this board would be showing up to this other subcommittee and what their role would be. But if it is just to have a couple of you show up, it's not going to be a policy or decision making that will bind this group, then that's probably accurate. Open meetings wouldn't apply.
And I would even add to that, David, that we really shouldn't call this a subcommittee. This is an invitation for people who are involved with this initiative to join an existing group and hear what's being said, give that feedback. But there's a lot of clarity that this group is not making decisions on behalf of the ROAC in any way. That was one of the major things that we wanted to consider in even thinking about this combination of efforts.
And that's my understanding as well, because we could be in a subcommittee group, and we know there was this other group to help us get this template. But as having some of the ROAC members being involved, if they're having conversations and some of us that are decision makers are saying, well, I'm not sure if that meets kind of what we need as criteria to make decisions. I don't think we would be making like a voting like, hey, this is what we're approving. Now, all of that would come back to this group for that decision making. So really it's just a discussion group and a data analysis group and not a decision making group. So that's how I viewed it, because they're trying to help us wrangle what would maybe have a suggestion of might work, and then also helping us wrangle all this data and then bring it back for us, this group, to make some decisions. That's my understanding. That's why I think it's important to at least have someone from the ROAC decision making there, because you guys can spend a lot of time and come back and like, what were you thinking? We don't like it. It may probably won't happen, but hope not, but.
It's your question here in this, your EPI group, they be up discussing other items as well that could be part of the community health improvement plan and mental health and social connections, or is this strictly data around opioid substance misuse?
I mean, certainly the connections between opioid use disorder, substance use disorder, mental health, suicide are present. I wouldn't, housing status, as you alluded to or discussed earlier with the NCHA report, I wouldn't be surprised to see those topics being covered. But I do think that, kind of given the contract that Butler has to facilitate this discussion, it is focused on providing expertise around substance use disorder and opioid use disorder that would be a resource for the ROAC. It does not mean that wouldn't be necessarily a resource for other groups, or that it would be anything, certainly not a decision-making body, anything more than a resource for the ROAC committee members to use. And we would love to have a two-way street of communication so that we are providing the type of resources that you want, and valuing and using your time during these meetings as best as possible, as opposed to having you always have to alter, edit, or have a subsequent inquiry about what we bring to you.
So, and David, I think he's still there. What would the cleanest then would be that to suspend by a vote the data subcommittee and acknowledge that there's this EPI committee and they're going to be working on what Jared laid out, and folks are invited if they'd like to participate and learn more. Would that be pretty?
So I'm wondering if we suspend for now, just in case we want to ever, if we like kill it, then we have to start over. If we just suspend it for now.
Yeah, that's what.
So I just want to just kind of.
So there's no connection.
Right, that we're gonna suspend for now this data subcommittee, and we have an invitation to join the discussion of data of someone else. But there won't be any decisions made like there might have been in the data subcommittee, so.
Yeah, that's a good clarification.
If that's the course that the ROAC wants to take, certainly that makes it clean. I'm not going to suggest that you are somehow obligated to suspend your subcommittee just to have some people go participate in another group's meeting. But certainly if you do so, that will make it cleaner and more obvious to people. And then I just sent out a message. I'm going to get the logistics from it and give you a final legal opinion. I'll send it to the chair just so it can be distributed. But based on everything you've said, it sounds very much like it's to have a couple of members show up to participate and gather information or discuss, but not make any policy decisions or anything of that nature that will bind this council. So I think you're going to be fine from open meetings from your perspective. I don't know anything about the other group, so I'm not advising them if they should have already been doing something one way or the other. I'm just telling you from your perspective.
Thank you, David. Any further comments, questions?
So do we? If the data subcommittee, we were gonna try to be meeting, but we haven't, we've been kind of meeting consistently. Do we really need to have a vote to suspend it or just say we're not going to be meeting until after, do we want, I don't know if we, it would be cleaner, like you said, I'm just trying to make it as simple as possible, because, we created it and then we started rolling and then we paused it and it just looks a little, weird to also end it within a few months. So just wondering if did we just say we're suspending it for, until further notice or?
Yeah, that's what I think that.
Okay.
I think it should be on record that in case someone looked at it, like, where did this go?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I agree with you on that. I just don't want to look like we all of a sudden formed it, medical thing and killed it. That looks weird. So in my opinion, so I think it'd be great just to use that suspension for now.
And maybe even say the suspension for now so that members could go join this other group and then bring information back to this group for any kind of decision making. Something like that. It's all out there.
Cool. So I'll make that motion if that works. So I move that the ROAC approve suspending for now the data subcommittee group. Suspend for now this group so that members of the ROAC can participate in data discussion and information gathering with the epidemiologist group with the help of you. Complicated motion, but is that clear?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further conversation? Hearing none. Anybody opposed? All right, that passes unanimous. Anything further on the data subcommittee group? Hey, folks, we're at adjournment. I just like to reflect real quick, and it's been many, many months. This group's been working really hard. We did a prioritizing exercise, getting us to social connections and housing. You all recall, we've been going late on most of our meetings. We've been doing lots of work, and all that work, getting these final reports like MJ's given us and others, showing significant impact, showing significant gap filling within our communities, such as Loveland, Parkburg, et cetera. And we only have $800. But so I think you give all around on the hard work.
So, and on that, segue on that, piggyback on that, I think we should be very proud. I was invited to attend the National Association of Counties Pre-Charitable Trust Disaster Resiliency Roundtable in February, but then I was invited for the Behavioral Health Crisis, Intergovernmental Behavioral Health Crisis Summit. Why is that a long name? I don't know. But, and we weren't asked to share, but I did make some comments that all of a sudden I were pulled up to share, but listening to other smaller communities and counties, because it was talking about how can we get the federal government state to help support local communities in responding to the behavioral health crisis. Certainly there was pieces of some things are similar to what we're doing, but what we're doing with Regional Opioid Abatement Council and this facility and in Larimer County, no one else had all those boxes checked. And certainly one gentleman raised his hand and said, hey, I'm working with your Community Justice Alternatives Group on this program. And hey, we heard about you here. So it was very cool to see other communities. This is an international, maybe not national, and of course here in our community, but it's interesting to see some are doing something similar. And but it was neat to see that we're all connecting, sharing ideas, but with the regional opioid abatement work, it was very interesting to see there was no kind of organization or regions things like what we're doing. So I just wanted to say, it was just cool to see, I'm hoping we have more discussions because it was great to learn from others, but certainly I just want to stress, thank you for all of you being involved in stuff. This is, we're making a difference and hopefully we can help others and learn from others and make a difference throughout the whole region and the whole state. It was kind of cool. I wanted to share that with you. So
Thank you for sharing. Yes, sir.
If I may quickly, yeah. echo everything you said. Commissioner McNally said, really powerful work. It's beautiful. See the data supporting the impact. So excited to see money going for housing for those entering recovery through this council. And as Tom said earlier in the meeting, it's a massive need, right? An underserved need. And we're seeing more and more beds for men. We are now seeing more resources of work devoted towards housing women entering recovery. I would like to just plan with everyone on the council as we're moving into thinking about year 3, about the other areas that have need. We're supporting a lot of faith-based and faith-adjacent recovery housing. That's fantastic. There's further need than that, right? Other underserved segments of our community, the LGBTQIA+ community, the BIPOC community, the Latin community, parents. So these are things I just like to wormhole in the back of minds as we move into year 3 and seeing how we can better serve community on even more holistic.
Well said. Well said.
Well said, and I'm hoping, Mr. Chair and committee, that the EPI committee and some of the information that we can hopefully get some of this gathered and have this to bring all back to all of us to help guide even further, so we can see and measure the impact overall and show it to the public as well, but also help us find those gaps and where we need to maybe be more targeted. So I think I think all of these great things and I'm really excited about the data work and seeing how we can use that. So, but I just want to say, I was sitting in my chair like, oh, we're doing good work, we're doing good work. So it's pretty exciting. One quick thing. Sorry, can we, I don't know if we already do this, maybe. Can we link on our website to the report that NCJ the outcome report?
It's a great idea. We'll do it.
Oh my gosh, that's a good idea.
You have both final reports. We'll give them to that. That's a really, really good idea. We can do that.
Okay, so, I want to just pause. We had a big, very robust conversation today. Really important work. And I want to do that, but there is a bill that I've been in big meetings that I had to sign off on a letter. There is a law that is now being able to punish local governments and agencies because they don't have accessibility things done on their website. And Larimer County is way far ahead. And today, a bill that would give us a year grace period almost got killed. And so I had to sign on a letter begging them to please pass this year grace period. So there is a lot of work to do. There are a couple smaller tiny counties who their total budget's $1 million. They're even not taking their websites down because they don't have the support in the IT department to meet these needs. So I hate to say this because I'm all about transparency, but right now transparency is being sacrificed, and this is editorial, for not having lawsuits. We can't, there's just so much to get caught up. I think this is really important, but anytime we put anything on the website, including the region, it's gonna be translated and this and that. And that is also now something that I'm hoping we're charging as a county for counties, administrative costs, because even though that's region 2, it's on the county website, and the county will have to make sure that is all being that intent of the law. I am totally about accountability, transparency, and openness, but I also know, after the conversation with 64 counties and municipalities and other groups, it's just, and I know we're way far ahead, I know other areas of the state are freaking out, so let's do that, but let's not say do it tomorrow, because then we have to make sure it's all accessible, because if that law does not get passed to give us a grace period, then anything you put on the website's gotta meet these things. I'm not trying to be a downer, but I think it's something we have to keep. Because we're all like, transparency, put everything up, the survey is up. And I'm doing that, but we also have to make sure that we understand the capacity to make sure it meets those needs. And I'm all about being ADA accessible, meeting those needs, but that takes time and capacity to do that. So I want to just kind of
each county can't link into it correctly, you would start hearing complaints. or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good reminder.
So I just kind of want to just plant that seed.
Sure.
And I really feel, I mean, today we had a big robust discussion this morning. And so I just want to kind of, gave me pause, especially when you're in one of the smaller counties, that they're probably gonna take the website down. And some people are dumping, and I hate to say that, I shouldn't be quiet, but we're not trying to make it we're afraid we'll get a law next year, so we have everything on the website, and, it's just, it's just something to think about.
Well, it hurts them, especially in rural places.
Well, thank you. Anybody move to adjourn?
I said.
All right. Okay. We are adjourned. Great meeting.
See, that's good.
Yes, I
Well, or them. Yeah, well, we'll get working and we'll try to make some time. I don't know what their summer is, probably works with the budget council, so in the summer, because more access.
It's a lot of us.
We have some. I'm so fired out about it.
And
The money.